And we're on the road. Here are some highlights from us getting to the airport. Hey Frank.
Hey.
Are you excited?
I'm excited. How are you?
I'm tired.
Are you terrified?
Yes.
It's gonna be cool. We're gonna have a ton of fun.
You better.
I mean, I have a weird hat. You have a weird hat. How can this be better?
Fair. Here's proof of my weird hat and this delicious lemonade I'm drinking. And then we were on our flight. We took Virgin Atlantic, which was comfier than I think a lot of other places, but still, you know, you're eating in the purple plate. The meals were delicious, I will say. It's the best vegetarian meals I've had on any flights where it's typically limited, and that was fantastic. Then we touched down and got a bus to Bath straight from the Heathrow bus area. We pretty much just got out and got a ticket right out of the terminal. And we had a little bit of time to obviously get some Caffè Nero and some M&S lunch and then get our bus. And so this is just some of the scenery on the way. It was really cool and nice to see this kind of like sprinkle sunlight. And then this is our fancy hotel in the lobby area. It's called the Queensberry in Bath, and it is divine. Okay, so here's the insane bathroom. Look at this shower and this beautiful tub and then this massive mirror. And there's like a window right where you pee. Another mirror. I think this wallpaper is really cool. And like, look at this ceiling. Look at it. Oh, there's a drink. Okay, and then this is the entrance. And then like, there are shelves in the closet.
There's a heater.
Happy thought indeed.
Air purifier, whatever that is.
And then this is the insane room. Look at our room. There's more closets in there. But like, look at it. Look at all the stuff. Ooh, ah. Ooh, ah. Things. Look at this beautiful paper.
Vaulted ceilings.
The room service is superb. That first night, we just got stuff delivered to the room, and it was delicious. And of course, I put on Pride and Prejudice. But they were so attentive and so nice. And the chamomile tea, it was real chamomile blossoms. And it was the best chamomile I've ever had. They brought the dessert up later because they didn't want it to melt, which I thought was so, so nice. And then we also ordered breakfast delivered to our room, and it was so good. Like, they have really fun options, but these eggs, man, like these soldiers, delicious. Frank was very confused by the egg situation, but I said that I felt that years of watching period dramas and historical shows set me up to succeed with egg cups. That's just me. Okay, so the rest of the hotel, there's like a bar hangout area, and it's all decorated and really cool and interesting. All the spaces are very different. And then there's an outside area as well in the back, the garden, which we really didn't have time to spend like extra time here, but it was so beautiful. And just like having this here, like next time we come, we won't be as in a rush. And I definitely think that we'll make time to just like have tea or meals out here because it was lovely and refreshing. But we got up the next day and we're attempting to beat jet lag by just getting up and going outside. And right down the street, we hit the Circus. That's right down. That kind of leads you to a bunch of the cool places. And then the Crescent, famous for its appearance in McDonald Dodds, as I'm sure you all know. Hey Frank, did you know this is where, historically accurately, Anne Elliot did a marathon? She ran the first marathon ever.
Yeah.
To go awkwardly kiss Wentworth. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
It's a fact. Right here. Marathon. She got gold. Jokes aside, this was a really lovely walk, and I'm so glad we did this our first morning because we really didn't have time to be this leisure the rest of the time we were here, and it was just so beautiful that day. This is also a site of Anne Elliot's other marathon. There's a sequel not a lot of people know about called Persuasion 2, Too Fast, Too Furious. where she also runs. Jokes about Anne Elliot aside, if you continue this little meander, there is a Georgian Garden that's open to the public, a recreation of a Georgian Garden, I guess. There are stairs here. I'll try to note when there are stairs and a lot of stairs and when there's not. I have an injury, so that's a big deal for me, and I know for other people that's probably a big deal. But this was very tranquil, very quiet, and they have a lot of little info on each thing. And then it was down to the Jane Austen Center, but first, between the Mary Shelley Museum and Jane Austen Center, there is a gaming cafe called Thirsty Meeples, and all of you are fired for not telling me about this. You simply have to go there if you visit Bath. Speaking of things you probably really need to do, visit the Jane Austen Center. So I had been 10 years ago. This was Frank's first time. It's probably a review for people who are Austen aficionados. Pop culture is woven throughout the entire exhibit, from pop around Austen's life to her works. There is a lot of information about her in Bath, which is the kind of, I guess, like peg for why this is here. The same thing for the Mary Shelley Museum, but I'll say that Shelley does something interesting and different that I do prefer. But yeah, you can just get a taste of Regency life. I think they do a lot to just give you some things that are scene setting, so you have an idea of how some people lived at this time. I think it is interesting too that like you get to see the costumes from movies up close, and there's even later some space for you to dress up, which I'll get to in a second. But there's just a lot of information. If you want to spend a lot of time here, you can. If you want to kind of fly through, it's not as easy to do that because there is kind of a set like tour cohort that you're with. But, you know, it's really interactive, and it celebrates a lot of Austen and a lot of the parts of Austen and the history and the movies and all the things around that. There are also these little mice all around, and there was like a little Pemberley with mice in it at the end, which I thought was really cute. Anyway, then they have like this little fake shop front and info on all the things that you bought in the Regency era. They have this beautiful dress that they have a bunch of history on. I think they documented their social media as well. And this is beside their little dress-up area where you can dress up and take selfies with Darcy. They had quite a substantial amount of selection this time. Then you follow the little mice, and there's a little writing area where you can try your hand at quill and ink and see some notes other people have written and just get an idea, too, of some of the works that Austen would have been reading. It's just a cool space. I think it's a really interesting, cool space. Try your hand. That quilt, writing with a quilt. If you've never done it before, it's actually it's different. It's very different than writing with a ballpoint pen. It's a skill. But I like that they have these little interactive things here. Like, they even have games. You can see here it talks about different Regency games. Little mouse. Love little mice. Then, a lot more about Jane Austen today, perceptions of her, of course, Colin Firth, Jane on like a note and stuff. In terms of accessibility, I will say that it looks like the bottom floor is the one that has wheelchair access, and the rest of the place is stairs. Just an FYI for folks who are thinking about visiting that have various needs. We got Cafe Nero. I didn't do the tea at the Jane Austen Center because tea is not Regency, and also that's a lot of food. That's just where I am. Anyway, afterwards we did walk down so that Frank could see the beautiful Abbey, the pump room, and the Roman baths, although we visited the baths itself later. But I thought this was gorgeous weather. Just looking up at this detailed cathedral, Abbey. So many words that I have never had to really use outside of a history class that I'm suddenly using on this trip. I definitely am inspired by the glass work in terms of some stuff for my thesis project. But yeah, after this, we meandered around, and what we did do was we found a bookstore that was so cool and so amazing, but I was bummed about one thing, which is that Garth Nix, author of Sabriel, is doing a book tour, and I have missed him just by a couple days for his entire UK trip because we were on opposite travel schedules. And I'm going to be bitter about this forever. Anyway, finally trying Sally Lunn bun. Now, this is an historic establishment. I think it's like the oldest building in Bath, or one of the oldest. And They just like let you walk around in the basement. You can also eat there if you want, and you can grab yourself a bun. The basement is a quote museum, but they have just these big old boxes of buns, and each one contains one Sally Lunn bun. Now, for the sake of consistency, we did head over to the place that sells bath buns, which is just around the corner. It's also a tea shop, but we took stuff with us because we were very tired. And you can see here, that's the bath bun on the right, and that's the Sally Lunn bun on the left. And I will unwrap that so you can get a better look at them. There you go. Okay. It is time to eat a little bit of this Sally Lunn bun. We have tried a little bit of a bath bun, and so now it's time to actually finally try a Sally Lunn bun. It came in this very fancy soup box, and yeah, we're not going to toast it, Abbey, because we are in a hotel, but we're going to snack on it and see how we feel. Now, last time I came here to Boff, they had closed right before I was leaving, so I didn't get to try one. So 10 years later. These just feel like sweet hamburger buns to me.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a hamburger bun. It tastes like a hamburger bun. It's pretty much just a sweet Hawaiian hamburger bun. As you can see, it's very large, aerated pockets. It's very, like, you know, light brioche.
I think this is why like they sell it, because like they do dishes there where it's like
Part of it.
you get like a top or bottom of it just
Yeah.
for the dish.
But, yeah.
I mean, it's a very light, fluffy thing.
It's very interesting that the Sally Lunn bun is kind of sold like by itself in these cute little boxes for people to share. But it is just like, you know, it's like kind of like a solid burger bun, and it's just like by itself it's not much of anything.
Yeah.
But you would incorporate it into a dish or something. Versus the bath bun,
Yeah.
which they sell
Around the
like with
corner.
like around the corner with like dried currants on top and like
Sugar.
melted sugar on the inside, and they try and make it a thing on it of its own. So they try and turn it into kind of its own little treat.
I mean, I feel like this is interesting. They do that. But, like, sugar inside is just so strange. It makes just like a chunk. And like the currants just like, immediately fall off as you're eating it. But I feel like in terms of the dough having flavor, the bath bun has more. I feel like the flavor, no, sorry, the Sally Lunn, the actual dough. I feel like the bath bun itself has the most flavor in terms of what's added to it.
Yeah, they try and like add things to make it some sort of dessert ready to eat thing. Versus the Sally Lunn bun is this like
Because it's
massive
slightly,
dinner
yeah,
roll.
because it's slightly sweet. I feel like it's like, that's why it's so, like they can make it into so many dishes.
Yeah.
But I'm also just like, these are fine. These aren't, they're okay.
They're just brioche buns.
They're buns.
They're just buns.
It's fine.
It's whatever. It's fine.
Okay, a quick note that the Fashion Museum of Bath is closed. For every 100 people that told me to go there, I had to keep telling you that it is closed. It is not, in fact, open. They are moving, and it's like a 3-year plan to move. If you're planning to go to Bath for this museum, think about other things because it's closed. Just check to see if they're doing events. Anyway, we walked down these little kind of cool middle streets. And again, like these are going to include stairs. There are some ramps around here, but I'd say just be really cautious of these closed off spaces that aren't near streets. Okay, Roman Bath Day. Roman Bath Day. That's what we're doing. You get in, you can get your ticket. You can get your ticket ahead of time. Even though it's really crowded, we still managed to get tickets. And it's just like really cool. It is basically just a focus on the Roman baths itself, as in like this natural healing hot spring that in the way it was used by the Romans and what we think about that. what we think we know about that. There is notes up here about how a lot of this facade is not Roman, like it's more recently made. Um, there's stuff on like that modern part, and everyone gets a little audio tour included, which is really good. There's just interesting stuff about like the different rooms. It explains to you. You can see like the little how hot it is, the steam coming off. It explains to you just like how the rooms were used at various times, specific to the Romans, and also talks a little bit about like obviously after use, but not as much. There's also like this in a couple of places that like shows you what they think the original design was and what it would have all looked like. And there's a lot of focus on kind of archaeology around a bunch of this. So like this is the original temple like pediment thing, and this is like the god and the projection there of like I think the whole thing would have looked like. And there's just a bunch of stuff they found, right? Like there's just so many like material culture components here, especially because like specific to the bath itself, like they have a ton about Roman hygiene and like beliefs on health. And there was this bunny, look at this bunny, oh my god, Roman bunnies. And there was of course these big pieces of like the temples and all of the other stuff that they have tried to give some context to and put into relation to each other. I will say in terms of accessibility, they have, I feel like, probably improved. There are still going to be massive spaces that are not accessible by lift. There are still going to be massive places, especially along the sides of like the Roman baths where it's just very uneven cobblestone. So be very mindful of that. Oh, those were the curses that were thrown into the thing, by the way. That's one of my favorite things. People threw curses into the waters. There's also a lot of signs about like, do not get in this water. It is toxic and untreated and like pumped in with lead pipes. Like, please do not. And of course, I watched like a dude put his hand in there. I watched a kid proudly put his foot in there and tell his mom, I put my foot in here. Don't do anything to this water. They don't want you to put coins into some of the pools anymore, but they will take your, quote, digital donations or offering. And at the end, you can take the waters safely. This is the safe place to do the waters. Okay, let's do it.
Oh god. Why is it hot?
Oh yeah, just as good as I remember. After we were healed of all of our demons, we went to the pump room just as a flyby to check it out. This is the place that Jane Austen talked about lengthily in her books. Touched on Bath. You can see a little historic thing outside of it. You can book a meal here. We did not book a meal here. We got pasties instead, which I think are great. Good choices. And now for the piece de resistance. Sham Castle. We got a taxi up to Sham Castle. It was very gloomy, Catherine Morlandy, as I keep saying. This features heavily in like Regency Bath things because they put a castle up here to make it seem more gothic and like there was something interesting up on this hill, as one does. Frank and I had a good time just walking around. This is the back. You can see it probably used to be more open. You could probably walk up it in some way, but not anymore.
So if all of my time playing video games has taught me everything, this is a secret passage.
I think you're right.
There's a little hole in here. If I reach my hand in there,
Yep.
totally will open up.
Yep. Nothing could go wrong.
Or I'll die.
Yep.
Just...
I didn't take a ride back down because there wasn't really a taxi nearby and we had no service. If you have like mobility issues, you definitely want to arrange a ride down this hill. Just FYI. Hey Frank.
Hey.
Did I eat shit?
Only a little.
Limping down Sham Castle Road, we tried to make a good situation out of me slipping on mud. I got very muddy on my butt. That was fun. And then we made it to the Holburn Museum. We didn't go in. I like had so much mud on me. I cannot explain to you. Anyway, this is the exterior for Lady Danbury's house in Bridgerton. We did not go in, but it was really cool. And there's a really modern glass back with a cafe. But nearby is actually something very cool. If you look out here, number 4 is Jane Austen's old address, so check that out. And then we decided to walk across the Pulteney Bridge, which is really cool. There's still shops on this bridge, so you kind of don't realize you're on a bridge. And then wet and achy, we made it to the Mary Shelley Museum before it closed. This, like the Jane Austen Center, has no elevator. It's not very accessible for folks who have mobility issues. It's a bunch of stairs. That's just a heads up. Otherwise, I think this is a very interesting museum for many reasons. Much like the Jane Austen Center, it leans into a very specific take aesthetic on her in terms of how it's laid out. There is a ton of information about Mary Shelley here, especially the early days, especially around Frankenstein, because it is a Frankenstein-centered thing. I feel like they really were like, let's go goth to the cottagecore Jane Austen Center, which is fine. I also think a strength of this is that they separate the modern pop culture from the historical, and Jane Austen Center doesn't. It weaves that in a lot more. There's also some interesting stuff about this. They based this Frankenstein off of the descriptions in the book. There was a meat curtain. But overall, it's a fun experience. Do visit. And with that, we are leaving Bath on to our next adventure.